back to another stream. Have I got an exciting one to talk with you guys, you people, you fellow YouTubers, you YouTube watchers? Have I got something to share with you in today's stream? So it's been a really, really mad past couple of days, but I want to go back to Thursday and talk about Thursday in particular in this stream. So you may recall, depending how well you follow the channel and how well, if you follow me on social media and stuff like Facebook, Instagram, you know me, you'll know that earlier this year I got offered a second job alongside my current main job, and this was a job that it was a dream come true. It was a job with a company or an organization, whatever you want to call it, that I like. The organization, it was a dream to work with them in the like manner of a proper job. So last 4 years, just over 4 years, I have been, or I think just under 4 years, is it something like that? 2022 was when I 2022 was when I first started working with them. 2022 was when I first briefly started working with them. So we're now 26. So basically, yeah, 2 4 is basically 6. So 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So this year would mark 4 years of kind of working with this company. So this company is called, well, I say company, it's more like an organisation. I don't know why I keep referring to it as a company. It's a funded organisation. They're called the Gig Buddies. The Gig Buddies is a organisation that is rapidly growing across the world, across the UK. Now they're venturing into places like Australia and stuff like that. And basically, they're a befriending project that matches people with a learning disability. And then basically they go out to gigs together, and they create kind of like safe spaces in venues, and they kind of make people who maybe have a little bit of like fear, anxiety about going out, or people who don't feel comfy and confident in whether it be going out to like catch a live band, or whether it be going out to like watch a live show. They kind of help alongside, like, you know, they match you up with kind of somebody in, I guess, kind of like a similar situation to what you might be in. And then you go, the idea is you go to a gig together, and you start kind of like meeting up at like social events together, and you start building a little bit of kind of like confidence from there, I guess. And way back in 2022, I had just started what is now my main job. And at the time, I was kind of like very new to this job. I hadn't been in the job very long. I was very, very like, you know, this is something that, you know, all new to me. And basically they were holding these community conversation, like open access meetings. I'd never been to one before. Never even knew what they were even about, or what they really were. And they just floated around in work emails. And basically this project that I'd started working on with my main job was like quite a new project. And I think my boss at the time was kind of like, you know, why don't you go to this meeting and kind of represent who you're from? So I did. I went to this open access meeting, and they represented who I was, and I instantly fell in love with the vibe of the room and the atmosphere, and I began learning about like accessibility in Hull, and I began learning about something that I just didn't even really like know about, and it's something that I didn't even really think about when it came to like music venues and places in Hull. So I was quickly like, this is quite an interesting meeting. So I was already intrigued as to kind of like what this whole thing is about, and found out that they were holding them kind of like every month. And then I kind of reported back to my boss, and I was like, it was quite a good meeting, you know. I represented like where we were from, and also like, you know, also like somebody else from where I worked like also came to the same meeting as well. And then I thought, yeah, I'll come back in November. I think October. I think that was like the first one that I went to, and I only could stay briefly because I was at Hull Fair DJing. So I thought I'm going to come back to the next one in November. So I came back, and began basically just like, you know, going back to them. And then I went to the December one, and basically, like, they had like an open access meeting, and then after the meeting, there was a gig, and they had like live music on. So the first time, obviously, I was at Hull Fair, so I couldn't stay for the gig afterwards. So the second one, I stayed for the gig afterwards. Realised there was like an open mic section, and they put people on having you know, chance on open mic, to either like sing some karaoke songs, or maybe like to read a poem out or something like that. I was kind of like, look, this is a really cool little atmosphere to be in. And then it got to the December one, and I got a little bit more involved with the music, and I just kind of like did some bits of drumming, and if I remember rightly, I also jumped on the mic and did a little like live PA. Some of myself and Layman's Jigger tracks. I think I just did Tunnel or something like that. You know, just to kind of thought, you know, what can I do on this open mic section? And at this point, I wouldn't say I'd been like really quiet, but I'd been relatively quiet. They didn't really know a lot about the different things I could do, because I'd kind of only just kind of gone there and been like, look, I've come from so and so where I work. And I think it got to a point where I wanted to get a bit more sort of like involved, of like, look, this is me, you know, this is me, Ash Noble, not just the Ash who works for Goodwin. So that's when I kind of thought like, I want to have a little go on the open mic, as you do. And then they realised that, you know, I could do like a bit of rapping, and they didn't expect like, you know, it was going to come out. I was going to do what I did. And we had a really cool time. And then like I just continued to get more involved, and then I think there was just like at one point like, you know, do you want to become a volunteer? You know, and I was like, well, I pretty much like just come to what like everything you do anyway. So at this point, like, why the hell not? And then I just began helping them even more. I'd attend all the meetings. If they put an event on, I'd go to the event. If you know, they were doing anything like an exhibition, I'd get involved, you know, and I did get involved in an exhibition, and did loads of really cool stuff, and I just continued to work alongside them. And then it got to this year, and earlier this year, I went to a meeting like I normally do, on the absolutely blown away surprise that they wanted to offer me a small job. And instantly I was like, I have to say yes. And the job could kind of work around my current job, which is my main job. It, you know, this new job was only asking a couple of hours a month just to do a few little bits of, you know, work with them, and pretty much everything I was already doing, but just with the chance that I could have a few hours of what I do with them paid. And I was kind of like, yeah, this is really cool. And I've been kind of like brought on board officially to do a bit of work with them. Again, funded work, which always has that, like, funding has a very mysterious way of acting. So funding can go either one of two ways. Funding can kind of go in a really good way, and you get more funding, and funding can become something bigger, and then you get offered more hours, and it's something that becomes a small job can turn into a little bit of a bigger job. And then funding can also go the complete opposite way. The funding can come to an end, you struggle to find any more funding, and then unfortunately the job role sadly comes to an end. Which, if it was to do so, I would obviously be very gutted and upset, but I would still continue to volunteer, because funding is one of them things. It's not necessarily a company's fault. Sometimes funding is just a very hard thing to get, and you're applying for like bids and applications, and there's that many different organizations that all try and go for a pot of funding, and sometimes, like, some places just unfortunately are not lucky, and it's not always down to the organization's fault itself. So I would probably very much still continue to volunteer, and work with them in that sense. If it was to progress into more of a bigger job, I most certainly would not say no to that. As a matter of fact, I think it would be probably one of the easiest yeses that I would ever give. So I began working with them, and a little earlier this year, we got nominated for a couple of awards, which was very, very exciting. And last Thursday that has just gone, we basically were at an awards evening in the Hull Minster in Hull. And it was a big, it's like a big sound disciplinary or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a massive awards thing, and there's different organizations all over the world that kind of like get nominated for awards. So there's like people in Barcelona, there's people in like Australia, there's people in like Africa and stuff like that, and they all kind of, loads of different people get sort of kind of like nominated for awards, and there's like different awards. And we got nominated for local music impact and a safe space in music venues. And we went to this awards evening. It was one of the. It was nothing like I ever thought it was going to be. Let's put it that way. It was there was elements of it I was kind of like I kind of expected. But then there was just like a lot, like a big chunk of the elements of this awards evening that I was just like, this is just completely nuts. This is like nothing I've ever done before. So first off, it was in a church. So being in a church was a little bit like, this is something I can kind of like get my head around, but it was a little bit kind of weird, but it was kind of cool at the same time. The second kind of like unordinary thing that kind of stood out to me about this whole awards evening was the way we were sat. I kind of thought we were going to be sat around tables and stuff like that. We were kind of just in like rows of seats, and there was like a stage in the middle that kind of looked like a catwalk. But it was like a really, really cool thing still. And then the third thing, which we're going to talk a little bit more about it later on, is they played Bongos Bingo in the middle of an awards ceremony in the middle of a church. So you picture, right, they've started this night, right? You've got all these like local choirs singing, you've got somebody on the organ, it's very much, it feels posh. You've got people sat in suits, you've got people coming around with like glasses of champagne and pints of beer and bottles of beer and all this like fancy food, onion badges, patty, things to eat, and all this different stuff. Right, and it feels very much kind of like, posh, quite formal. You've got a guy on stage like reading out the nominees and awards and stuff, and then right slap bang in the middle of it, you have this Scouse guy come on like a rave DJ, and starts doing a game of bingo where you're basically raving it up. And basically giving out just the most daftest prizes ever, from like space operas to Henry Hoovers to like big teddy unicorns and things like that. That just really, like, it was really fun, but like, you know, something that you just don't expect that you're gonna see in the middle of an award ceremony. And basically, to cut the story short, it was just a really, really mad thing. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that afterwards. So we're at this awards ceremony, and the good news is we actually won the local music impact award, which was, you know, we were proper buzzed. Let me tell you, I kind of had that kind of like brave face on before the ceremony and leading up to it, like, yeah, we're gonna smash it, we're gonna win. But then, like, you get in there and the nerves really hit you. Like you know, you really want us, you really want us to win, but like at the same time, you're unsure if we actually are gonna win. And then you realise like all the different people you're up against, and you kind of see like really the scale of what this award ceremony actually is. And then it got to the point where they were reading out the category for the local music impact, and my heart was literally like coming out of my chest. I was proper like, are we gonna win? Are we gonna win? And then this woman came up on stage, and at first, like, she was holding the mic, but not really talking into the mic that much. But because the room was so quiet, you still could kind of hear what she was saying. Although someone did shout, like, we can't hear you. And then she did get asked to like speak more into the mic. And then she called out the winner and obviously said Gig Buddies. And it was just like, you know, we were the loudest, the most excited. It was like one of the most, like, I actually felt quite emotional. It really kind of like, I just saw like everybody clap, and I just kind of saw like how buzzed everybody was, like, you know, like, who would come to support us, who would come and sat with us at the event, like, while we kind of took that award. And it was a really surreal moment, and I saw them go up on stage, Emily, Ed and Alicia, who are like the main coordinates, you know, staff members, for Gig Buddies, with me and somebody else being a community connector, but still very much a part of the award. It was quite emotional, like, and like in a happy way, to see them go up there and take that award. And it was a feeling that I can't do. It was a similar feeling. I got a very similar feeling to I went to a festival with the Layman about just under a year ago, around August time. And Layman hosted a set at a festival. Now, it was the first time I'd been to a proper festival with the Layman. Normally, like, if he's at a festival, normally, like, I've been booked somewhere else, or for whatever reason, I've not been able to go. So it was the first time. And when I saw him on stage and he hosted a set, and I saw how well he'd hosted a set, because loads of times the Layman would, like, tell me about these sets at festivals he's hosted, all these stories at festivals, and you can't really vision it, you can't really see it unless you're actually there. And then I was actually at this festival, and when he smashed this set, and the crowd were just absolutely loving it, and I could see that Layman was right in his element. I could see the DJ was just in his element, because the DJ was happy with what the host was doing, and then the crowd was happy with what the DJ and the host was doing, and the vibe was so good it became quite emotional. And it got towards the end of the set, and I felt very emotional in a good way. And I thought, like, you know, this is one of my closest friends who has just gone up on stage and absolutely smashed it. And the Gig Buddies, they're like a family to me. And they've all become really close friends of mine as well, people that I absolutely love the bones off of. So then to see them know how hard we've all worked for that award, to see that buzz in their face and our organisation name get shouted out, and then them to go up to the stage and claim the award, it was a very, very, it was another emotional moment in a good way. And I'm not a big emotional person. I'm somebody who doesn't really show a lot of emotion. Sometimes I can come across as somebody who just doesn't give a shit, which isn't the case. I'm just not a big soppy person who gets upset and thinks of yeah. From Hull. So when they went up and got this award, it was a very, very happy feeling for them. And then the second award, we unfortunately didn't win that one. But I say unfortunately, like, to win the first one was like that was just it for us, like winning that first award was amazing. If we'd have won the second award, like, that would have just been like the added bonus, but like it would have been absolutely mind-blowing. But it was still, nevertheless, it was an amazing feeling. So they read out some more awards, and they did this Bongos Bingo, which I've always heard about them. Like, I've seen them advertised. I've seen them like, oh, there's a Bongos Bingo coming to so-and-so. And I've always wondered, like, what they'd actually be like. Because I could, and someone said, like, oh, it's like there's a DJ while there's a game of bingo going on, and I was like, hey, this is a weird thing, but I was always kind of intrigued, but just never got the time to go. So when I found out they were going to play it at this awards evening, it was like, I was kind of like excited to see what it was all about. But like, it was the maddest experience having a rave DJ in the middle of a church, blasting out like Freed From Desire and DJ Sammy, Heaven, and all these tunes that you just really wouldn't expect to be blasting out in a church. When you kind of, you think of churches, and I don't know if that's just like how the world's been programmed, but you think of like churches and you think of hymns and organs and choirs and stuff. You don't necessarily think of a DJ in a church, do you? So it was a really, really mad feeling that there was like a sound system in a church. You had a guy on his DJ controller that was kind of like calling out bingo numbers and hyping up bingo like a rave MC. Imagine like you got someone like MC Storm in a church. That is kind of literally like what it was. It was literally just like being in the middle of a church and just having a party, while kind of like playing bingo, which was kind of like really, really weird. But the way they played it was so weird, because it was like they'd read out a couple of numbers, and then they'd like cut to a song, and they'd get everybody to like do something, and then they'd kind of like, and then they'd get everybody to kind of sit back down, and then they'd carry on reading numbers out. So anyway, me being me, I'm just like a very happy person. Good song comes on, listen, I'm moving, I'm singing, if I feel like I'm in a really, really positive environment and everybody's having a good time and enjoying themselves, I will come a little bit more overconfident myself, and I'll start moving around and I'll start singing and blah blah blah. So anyway, halfway through, they put the Macarena on, and selected some people to come up and do the Macarena, and I was one of the people that got selected. So I went up. Okay, cool, wicked. Let's do this. Trying to do the Macarena. A few other people got up to do it as well, and it was quite fun. Back down, read out some more bingo numbers. Bingo come to an end. I unfortunately did not win the bingo. I was very close. Like, I was actually quite close on a few occasions, because they did like 1 row, 2 row, and then they did a full house, which was, which is the 3 row. And literally, I was literally at the point of maybe having like four numbers off, like having a full house. I was getting quite close to, like, there was like maybe like a row where I'd have like 2 numbers left, and then like I would have been able to say like bingo, and Yeah, it was quite a cool game. So he finished the bingo, and he played Free From Desire right at the end, and he was like, "Look, there's literally like we've got just over a minute to go, and then they're gonna hand back over to read the rest of the awards out." And anyway, so he's playing Freed From Desire. Everyone's jumping around, everyone's having a really, really great time, as you do, proper enjoying themselves. And then he cuts to the ISIS song, don't want the world to see me. So me being me, I like that song. I like the vocals. I like the energy of it. So me being me, I just I'm singing it. I'm moving around as you do. And I think I must have been overly confidently moving around and singing it because the guy who was hosting the Bongos Bingo saw how much like he could tell that I liked the song and I was singing it, and he called me up on stage, just me, him, and the two dancers that were kind of like the dancers for the Bongo Bingo. Um, Calls me up on stage and he's like, this person knows the lyrics, we're going to test him. So I'm in the middle of a church full of hundreds of people. Bearing in mind, I don't sing. I'm not a singer. I can't sing. I sound like a strangled cat when I try to sing. But what I do have is quite good like MC skills, mic hosting skills a little bit. I can be quite confident when on a mic, and I have been up on a stage before. Singing is a completely different thing. So they had the words up on screen for the song, and it was like, we're going to see how well this person knows a song without looking at the words that were on the screen behind me. And basically, they dropped the music and I had to sing it a cappella. So I go up on stage in a church, the biggest church in Hull, hundreds of people from all over the world, and I literally, no word of a lie, I'm on the stage singing ISIS a cappella to hundreds of people in the middle of a church, right? Like with no music, it's just a full a cappella of me on the mic. My voice is really projected. There's a video and it really captures it really, really well. And anyway, it was like one of the most like bizarrest moments. Like, I think more than nerve-wracking and more than like, oh shit, I've got to go up on stage in front of hundreds of people. The thing that was more going through my mind is like, never in a million years did I think that I would get called up on stage to sing a song in a church in front of hundreds of thousands of people, because there was people from all over the world, all sat there, different organizations. The church was packed, from kind of like the left side, the right side. It was just absolutely crazy. There was so many people in the church, and then I'm just stood there singing this tune, this ISIS song that I like it, but I'm like, how mad is that? That I'm actually singing this. Like, it was a bizarre moment. It really, really was. And I just went up and I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I didn't go up there and flop, because when you think about it, like to go up there in front of that amount of people and just grab the mic and start singing it, like, that would be quite nerve-wracking to a lot of people. So I don't know how I went up and did it. And I was kind of a little bit like, wow. When I was up there, I'm not going to lie, I did have like some slight nerves running through me. But like I say, I was just more like, I can't believe, like, out of all the things that can happen. And it always seems to happen. Like, something like, or something on a mic, or I always end up like doing something like to do with a microphone. It's almost like I am technically made for the mic. I just think there's something that always drags me to the mic, and I don't know what it is. I'm just very, and it can be anything. Like, we're doing a Tuesday Tea Club gig, and it's me that will kind of forefront the band on the mic. It's just, I don't know. There's something that always. I like microphones. I think I've got I've got a love for microphones, and I think wherever I am, like I just end up going on one. I can go to a rave and I end up emceeing on the mic. I can go to an award ceremony and end up going on the mic, and it's just a really really mad feeling. You know, I got full control of the mic, and I sang it, but I also hosted the crowd as well. I wanted to I wanted people to know that I'm not a singer, but at the same time, I wanted people to kind of like look at me and think like he's been on stage before, and that was kind of like the whole vibe of like what my kind of like quick process of like because this all happened in the moment. No one prepped me earlier and said, look, you're gonna go up on stage later on. It was a like you're singing, you've been singled out from the crowd. Get up here and sing it on the mic. One of the most it's something that I will remember for a lot of years, because like I say, I don't sing. And the fact that I got called up to sing something is absolutely mind blowing. But yeah, and then I jumped back down. Everybody's like, like that was amazing. Like people like actually really enjoyed it, and people was like that was so funny as well. Like, but people was mind blown that like I just like you get up on, and I just got up and did it. People were kind of saying like I wouldn't be able to go up there and do that, and I was and like yeah, I honestly don't know how I did it, but I ended up doing it, and then I jumped back down. The night came to an end, which was like it was a really cool end to the night. To be fair, and it was a really really good way to kind of like end the kind of like bongos bingo. They read out the final awards. And then we kind of like ended the night. We took some pictures. The bongos bingo DJ guy had somehow packed down and left, and I didn't even see him. I actually I wanted to shake his hand and just say like, look, you did fucking amazing, because like he was a really good host. To be fair, he made it funny, he made it interactive, and and I just thought like I've never felt this like happy inside of a church, because I'm not really a religious person. Religion is not really my big strong point, so I don't typically go to churches that often unless I have to, like if it's a funeral or anything. So I was very much like wow, like I've never felt so like in my element inside a church as what I kind of felt that night, and I just kind of wanted to big him up, but he'd already left. He'd done one. He'd had enough. He'd gone. Maybe it was like bongos bingoing somewhere else another day. Who knows exactly what he was doing? But what I can tell you is it was absolutely amazing, and it was a really really fun vibe. So we took some pictures. Of us all with the award, and and everybody that helps out with Gig Buddies, and also we did as well. And yeah, really really cool vibe, but really cool and enjoyable moment, and I absolutely love every single moment of it. It was like it was so I was so buzzed that we won the award, and then we went back to an after party at the Hilton Doubletree Hotel. There was some more drinks. There was a free buffet. We could carry on celebrating for a little bit, which we did. We went back and had some food. Just had a drink before we went back home, and then we went home because basically, I had work the next day at Goodwin. Some other people had work, and it was still, as a matter of fact, a weekday. We'd done quite well to be kind of like partying as long as we did, really, which was kind of like it just got to just after 11, I think. So it was a really really cool thing. I was I was proper buzzed to be able to be a part of it. And I thank Gig Buddies for having me there as well, and having me be a part of what this was, which was something really really cool. So with that being said, that is pretty much it. The awards evening. Went home, like I say, to just, yeah, I didn't even really know. I got home and like I was just on such a high. It was kind of like, what do I do next? How do I settle down? How do I live it down? You know, I was buzzed about winning the award. I'd been up on stage and sang. I just had a really good time. I was just, you know, my flat was quite a mess because I'd been like trying to dig out a suit and everything, and I had some things to put away, and I just could not get focused when I got back home. It was getting quite late. I knew I had work the next day. I was like, how do I live this down? But what an amazing situation it was. It was, you know, it was so cool. And I can't wait to do it all again, you know, another time, and be a part of more enjoyable, like, entertainment nights as well, you know. I've realised that I do very much love being at, like, party environments and events and music, and not necessarily just raves. Like, I love just, like, being a part of just, like, having a really, really good time. And I like in that sense the way I've transitioned, because like the old me, like if you'd have taken me back, like I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago, like I wouldn't have really wanted to go somewhere where there was a band on, because to me, like, no, get the decks out, get the hardcore on. You know, I went through a period of my life where I very much I got very addicted to UK hardcore, and I still love UK hardcore. But there was one point where I kind of was like, I'm hardcore only, and I turned my nose up at a lot of other different types of music because I just wanted the hardcore on. Didn't want to go somewhere and listen to a band. You know, it won't. You know, I didn't think it was really for me. Now I love bands. I love solo singers. I love acoustic acts. I love I love 80s music, you know, more than ever now. You know, I always knew what it was. I'd always heard certain songs before, but I was just like, no, it's not the hardcore. Don't tell me about it. Because I'd just very much fallen into this pattern of, you know, this is what I want to go out raving to. This is what I want to play when I go out DJing. This is what I need to play all the time at home. This is who I need to be. And now I'm glad that I'm not, and I do all these other different things now, which is really cool. But on that note, before we do end the stream, I am playing a gig this Friday in Hull at the service station, and I am playing a hardcore set. Yes, keep it real, man. Yes, big ups, man. I am playing a hardcore set this Friday at a place called the Service Station. Am I looking forward to it? Yeah, there's a part of me that is. I won't lie to you. There's a part of me that is kind of like, yeah, do you know what? Like, I haven't done it for a while. I've not gone anywhere and played a hardcore set in a while. So there is that element of it where I kind of enjoy it. There's another element of it where I am questioning, like, is it going to be a good event? You know, the venue, I know the venue, I like the venue. The venue actually normally puts a lot of bands and things on. I've been in the venue a few times. I've played in there a couple of times. Last time I played in there was an event called Service Fest, and it was very much a house event. And it was very much a really, really cool sort of event that went on through the day, went on into the night, and I played like quite late. When I played quite late, there wasn't really many people there. It had kind of died off a little bit. Ended up playing a little bit of a kind of like bounce set because the guy before who was on before me taken things a little bit harder to what had been sort of like played before. And anyway, the owner of the venue was like quite pleased. He was quite buzzed at kind of like, you know, what I'd done, and said like, you play a really, really good set. You know, let's keep in touch, and you know, I'd like to do more with you. And then of course I never really ever did. I inquired about putting an event on there once, I was going to do something like on the house music thing, and I was going to kind of like inquire, just like at the time, like what would it be to put an event on there. I think there was a free venue hire, which was one of the reasons that kind of, yeah, let's do this. And then like I just wasn't really sure like what direction to go in, what I was kind of gonna do. So like I just asked around for a couple of DJs to maybe play some house music, and then like I was in contact with the venue, and then like the conversation just dried up, and then like if I remember rightly, I messaged them back with a date that I wanted to do the event, and then they just never got back in touch. And I got the vibe and opinion that they didn't want me to put the event on, and they were just being polite, and they didn't just tell me straight for whatever reason, and they just blanked me, which I was a little bit annoyed about. But things have definitely changed since then, by all means, and I am very much in that sense a different person to what I was back then. If I'd have put an event on back then, I just think it would have been a complete flop, and I wouldn't have really known what I was doing, and I wouldn't have really thought about who I'm putting on, and just thought like, this person will do it, so let's have him on, and it wouldn't have really made sense to the lineup, and it just probably wouldn't have really attracted people, and I wouldn't have really known what I was doing. Whereas now with In the Beer Garden, I've had the experience of the 4 years at Goodwin, putting events on at Goodwin, for like the youth music and stuff, which that has obviously taught me quite a lot of things and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have had before. So that's kind of obviously like that thing. So yeah, so this Friday I'm playing a hardcore set. I'm on at midnight with an MC called Yemin B, who is a guy who's just been like a local Hull MC for quite a lot of years, and don't really MC much, I don't think, but like comes out to like various events in Hull when there's one on, and has MC'd at like Hull events for a lot of years. Probably dates back to like the old R House days, and whatever used to go off in Hull before my time of, before I was old enough to go out raving, when I was just kind of, in that kind of like at home with my parents, listening to like house music and hard house and trance, and before I really knew what the hardcore scene was and the uprising scene, and when they used to have the all the different events on, Escape and stuff like that. I think, back then, that's when they would have probably have been like MCing quite a bit back then, and probably session at people's flats and stuff, before, like I say, before my time. But he's on the set anyway. I do know who the person is now. We do know each other. We do get on, although we don't talk all the time, we do get on, and I do know of most of the DJs on the lineup as well. So with that being said, we'll just see how Friday goes. I only literally live outside the venue, so I'm not really losing anything, not really gaining anything, but it was just like, the guy was looking for a DJ. I just thought, I live right nearby there, like I can just walk out my house and I'm pretty much at the venue. So I just thought, yeah, do you know what, like it's not, it's probably the closest place I've ever played a set, like I can literally walk it in about less than 2 minutes. Like the only thing that would hold me up from getting there is just waiting for a green man if the traffic was busy. So with that being said, it's for me like I just come down from my flat, and then I just literally come back to my flat again in literally probably about a minute and a half, and I'm quite a fast walker, so very, very close. It is a nice venue, so I'm looking forward to kind of being in the venue and just seeing what the vibe is. You know, I am playing at midnight, so I haven't got too bad of a set. I do wonder if it's a little too late for a venue like that, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. I'm not even sure what time it finishes. As a matter of fact, let's have a look at kind of like the start and finishing times before I head and end the stream, because I'm not fully, you know, I've just kind of like been that busy. The event's been there in the background, but I haven't really like, you know, um, been keeping note of it that much that I remember. Yeah. So who is that on the bike? Who is that on the bike in the photo behind you? Oh, so behind me, so it's a road racing calendar. So basically, it's got like different road racing events each month. So it's got like pictures of the Isle of Man. It's got pictures of the Northwest. So the photo behind me is Dean Harrison on the Honda bike at the Balarth Bridge, just literally going over the bridge, and someone has taken a picture through like a fenced railing, like a photographer, and then it's being used for the camera, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so going back to the event, I've just noticed that they've made a mistake on the event page, and on the event page they've actually put 7 a.m. instead of 7 p.m. It's on at 7 p.m. essentially, so it starts at 7 p.m. It goes on till 2 a.m. I'm on at 12 o'clock, so I'm basically like third to last set basically. So yeah. So I'm on with so uh so it's like is it Yemai B? I think he goes as. I know him like like a real person, like outside of his MCing. Yeah, there's a few different people on. Guy called Energy MCing and stuff like that. We got a DJ Blitz, Kenny Thompson. It's just you know, very much like local people. It's a very like £3 entry. Again, set 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. 19th of June at the service station. Night of hardcore, old school, and hard style. So it's very much, you know, in that kind of sense. It's and the flyer looks very old school as well. It does look like a rave that would take place in the late 90s. It's got that very kind of cool vibe to it. So I'm excited for it in that sense, because it feels like I'm playing something a little bit old school for a change. And you know, I'm quite young, so I don't, you know, I didn't really get to witness the late 90s, but you know, the vibe will probably be like very much different. Anyway, with that being said, that's happening this Friday. Believe it or not, it's the first rave that I'm playing this year. And that sounds very, very crazy to say that we're in June already. And this is the first event that I've DJ'd at. Now, I was booked for one in Chorley in April, and unfortunately, I couldn't make it in the end, because I'd been basically, I was in a film of all mad things, and basically the film was part of a university project, and I couldn't, like, if I didn't film that day, then the film had missed the university deadline. So basically, I got like the biggest kind of like thing put on me, the biggest and hard thing put on me, and I had to make a decision, and whichever I was going to do, somebody wasn't going to be happy. And unfortunately, I ended up going with the film, sadly, and didn't end up making the journey, which I was a little bit gutted about. But with that being said, yeah, I haven't played a rave this year. Now, obviously, I had things going on behind the scenes, family things, all of that kind of stuff as you do. And obviously that was a big thing for me. And I kind of just, a lot of my events just kind of died off. And then I got into the more like pub residency, mobile DJ type thing. And I want to do some more like mobile type things as well in the future. That is a very much a line that I'm quite excited to go down. That I'm quite looking forward to going down. So that is something very much that, yeah, I am actually like wanting to go down in terms of like not events. I want to do a stream about it because like I've changed quite a lot to like my DJing and stuff. I still love my DJing, and I do love. I do like raves as well, like of course I do, but I have there has been a lot of like things that I've just feel have changed for me, and my whole like view and vision has kind of changed, and I very much do enjoy doing the mobile stuff quite a lot. I enjoy like working alongside like live music, live bands. Very much enjoy like going to an event where I'm there for a good few hours, and I'm I can play some 80s, 90s, going to some house, going to some club. Like, you're not just going and playing an hour set of like one genre, and then like and then that's it. I feel like I feel like I get more out of the mobile stuff than I do. Like I feel like sometimes like I've enjoyed all the raves I've done, but like sometimes like I've like travelled like a good fair distance, like, and I've played like a 45-minute set sometimes, or like I played like an hour set, and then that's kind of been it. And then like I kind of almost feel like it was such a journey to get there. Like, sometimes like I'd like board 3 different trains. Sometimes I'd then jump on a bus, and then it's like you're playing like an hour set, and then like that is it. It's gone. It's done. And I was just there was a lot of me that was kind of like thinking like there's a lot of work going into me just like playing for like 45 minutes. When it was like an hour's set, I wasn't too bothered, but like you'd go somewhere and you'd get like a 40-minute set or a 45-minute set, or you'd get booked somewhere and you're only playing half an hour. I just kind of thought like, I'm putting more effort into like promoting, going to this gig to just be on stage for that little time. Where like I can do the mobile stuff and I can be on like 3 4 hours and I just enjoy myself and the music's mine. Not worried about the person before me, the person after me, not worried about what time I'm gonna be put on. Everything just kind of like, they're wanting me for who I am, not somebody like wanting me and then saying, can you do this and can you do that and can you play at this time, and or do you mind swapping with so and so because they can't now do that time. And I feel very much with the mobile stuff, it's very much like, to an extent, you can be kind of who you want to be and you're offering your service of who you are, whereas with an event you're kind of more in kind of like, you can still very much at an event like be, bring who you are, but at the same time there's a lot of things you have to kind of like work alongside, and stuff like that is very, whereas like the mobile stuff, like you have a very more open chance to kind of show who you are as a person, and and be like, and people like can build a connection with you, alongside being like just a guy who plays music. You can do some mic work, you can play a lot of different music, you can kind of have a song playing and you can go and talk to people that are at the place, and there's just a bit more to it that I've really started to like brace up and enjoy. and there's a vibe of it that I really like. So I want to do a whole stream about it. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. It doesn't mean that I'm done with the events. It doesn't mean that like I don't want to ever play events again. Of course I do, but we'll talk about it in another stream. But I just want to kind of talk in that other stream just a little bit about how I have kind of got to enjoy the kind of like mobile stuff a bit more. And just a question of like, do I prefer the mobile? Is there more in it? Do you get more out of it, kind of thing? So we'll talk about that. But anyway, that's going to do it for this stream. Amazing awards evening, proper chuffed to bits about that. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, share, and we'll see you soon. Oh, yeah.